There are people who navigate the world through emotion rather than detail. They walk through memories not like structured scenes with timelines and facts, but like rooms filled with old atmospheres. They can tell you exactly how a moment felt, even if they cannot tell you when it happened or what anyone was wearing or what exact words were spoken. They remember warmth. They remember tension. They remember disappointment blooming in their chest like a bruise. They remember the heaviness of silence, the sting of someone's tone, the electric thrill of a brief joy. For them, emotions are the map, the archive, the entire story. These are the emotional archivists. They live with a memory system shaped by feeling rather than logic. They recall the sensation of an event far more vividly than the event itself. Their memories are not arranged in chronological order, but stored in emotional folders. Some people open a memory and see a sequence of actions. Emotional archivists open a memory and feel a wave of sensations wash through them. It is not that they do not remember what happened. It is that what happened is secondary to how it felt. Feeling is the first language. Facts are commentary. This trait does not appear randomly. It develops quietly over years, often long before the person realizes it is happening. Maybe they grew up in a home where emotions ruled everything, where the mood of the house shifted suddenly, where tension could rise from silence or explode without warning, where they had to read subtle cues to stay safe. Maybe they learned to sense danger before it had a shape. They learned that the atmosphere mattered more than the facts. They learned that tone mattered more than logic. They trained their nervous system to prioritize emotional survival over intellectual clarity. Or maybe they were a sensitive child who felt everything too deeply. A child who noticed the emotional undercurrents adults pretended not to feel. A child who picked up on disappointment, irritation, or sadness even when no words were spoken. They became fluent in emotional language, because emotional language was always speaking to them. Their brain began storing memories in emotional categories, because that was the information that mattered most in their environment. And for some, trauma shaped their memory system entirely. Trauma does not store itself in facts. It stores itself in sensations. A look, a tone, a heaviness, a breath, a feeling of danger, a feeling of shame, a feeling of being too small or too loud or too invisible. When trauma teaches the brain that feelings are essential for survival, the brain begins to record life based on things that feel like threats or warmth or shifts in emotional energy. They may not understand why they cannot remember birthdays or timelines or the order of conversations. They may not understand why they cannot quote what someone said, but can describe exactly what that person's expression did to their body. They may not understand why a small detail triggers a memory that feels immediate and raw. They may not understand why they hold on to emotional weight long after the event itself has blurred. Their memory is not wrong. It is simply emotional. People who do not share this memory style often misunderstand it. They assume the emotional archivist is exaggerating. They assume they are dramatic. They assume their version of events is distorted. They assume misremembering means the person is unreliable. But emotional memory is not misremembering. It is remembering differently. It is remembering the part of the experience that mattered most to their survival or identity. It is remembering the part that left an imprint on the heart, even if the mind forgot the rest. And because emotional archivists store memories through feeling, they often re-experience emotions with startling intensity. A tone can send them back 10 years. A scent can pull forward a forgotten ache. A certain kind of silence can reopen wounds they thought they had healed. They do not remember the story, but they remember the soul of the moment. They remember the emotional truth. They remember what it did to them. This is both their gift and their burden. Their gift is empathy. They understand the emotional world of others with a depth that some people never reach. They connect through feeling with magnetic authenticity. They sense subtle shifts in moods. They give support before others even realize they need it. They can look at someone's face and feel what they are trying to hide. They navigate relationships with a kind of emotional intelligence that is rare, powerful, and deeply intuitive. But their burden is heavy. They are haunted by emotional residues that do not fade with time. They relive emotional experiences intensely. They forgive slowly because their body remembers even when their mind wants to move on. They feel past wounds as if they are present. They carry the weight of unresolved emotional energy in their chest, their stomach, their throat. They struggle to let go of feelings because their nervous system has not learned how to release them. They are not stuck in the memory. They are stuck in the feeling. There is a loneliness that comes with this. Emotional archivists often do not feel understood. People around them ask for facts they cannot provide. They say things like, "Tell me exactly what happened," but what happened is not the part that stayed. The emotional archivist tries to describe the atmosphere, the sensation, the shift, the tension. But others may dismiss it as oversensitivity or exaggeration. This dismissal wounds them deeply, because what they remember is not optional. It is not chosen. It is imprinted. And so they learn to keep their emotional understanding private. They internalize their feelings. They watch themselves navigate emotional minds without explaining the full depth of what they sense. They learn to trust their intuition quietly. They learn to carry emotional weight alone. But over time, this emotional burden accumulates. They begin to feel overwhelmed by emotions that have no clear origin. They feel drained by intensity that never fully leaves. They feel confused by emotional waves that rise unexpectedly. They feel tired of carrying the emotional truth of experiences they cannot logically articulate. They feel trapped in feelings that do not fade because the facts are too blurry to resolve them. This leads to the breaking point. One day, the emotional archivist realizes they cannot keep storing every emotional imprint. They realize they have been living in a constant state of emotional reenactment. They realize their nervous system has been doing work their mind never understood. They feel the weight of every unprocessed feeling gathering like a storm inside them. They feel the fatigue of holding emotional files that were never properly closed. They feel the exhaustion of being the keeper of experiences that shaped them in ways they never chose. And in this breaking moment, a question emerges. A question they have avoided. A question that feels both terrifying and liberating. What actually happened? This question shifts everything. It invites clarity where there was only sensation. It invites logic where there was only atmosphere. It invites context where there was only impression. It gives the emotional archivist something they never had before. A way to translate feeling into understanding. Healing begins with grounding. It begins with recognizing when an emotional flashback is not a present threat but a past residue. It begins with anchoring emotions to It begins with saying, that feeling was real, but it is not happening now. It begins with separating intuition from fear. It begins with learning how to soothe the body so the mind can reorganize its archives. Healing does not mean losing emotional depth. It means learning to direct it. It means adding missing facts to old emotional memories so the nervous system can finally put them down. It means telling the inner child, you were right to feel that, but you do not need to carry it alone anymore. It means understanding that emotional memory is powerful, but not always accurate to the present moment. It means choosing what to keep and what to release. With time, emotional archivists begin to feel lighter. They begin to navigate life without absorbing every emotional ripple around them. They begin to differentiate between past wounds and present sensations. They begin to recognize which feelings belong to them and which feelings come from others. They begin to feel clarity instead of confusion. They begin to feel grounded instead of overwhelmed. And the most beautiful part is this: they learn that their emotional depth is not a flaw. It is a strength. It gives them insight, compassion, intuition, connection, but it does not need to control them. It does not need to weigh them down. They can experience emotion without becoming archives for it. Here is the truth emotional archivists need to hear. You remember feelings because your body learned that feelings kept you safe. You felt deeply because you had to, but you are allowed to release what you once needed. You are allowed to rewrite the emotional stories stored inside you. You are allowed to feel without holding every feeling forever. You are allowed to step out of the past and into the present. You can keep your depth without keeping the weight. You can stay emotionally rich without staying emotionally burdened. You are not meant to drown in your own archives. You are meant to understand them, and then, finally, to breathe again.